Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by Sophomore on the Stony Brook Women's Lacrosse team, Zoey Kruger. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Zoey, and how is everything going?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Everything's going well. Yeah, just keeping busy in season. We just played on Saturday, so got a big win there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously your season's been going well for you guys so far. You guys are 6-2, with a big win over Syracuse a couple weeks ago. So, what's been your thoughts on the season so far from your perspective?
I think it's been going well. We obviously traveled up to Syracuse and beat them in the dome. It was unreal. It was so awesome. Being able to experience that. It was really big win. Our team played awesome. I think we played well, both offensively, defensively, draw control. It was goaltending. It was really good. It was a really good game. And then we had a lot of traveling within the next few days after that. We went up to North Carolina and played Hopkins in the Crown. Unfortunately, we lost, but we were able to come back and lose within two. So it was tough, but and then we came back home, had a flight, and we played Denver on Monday. Lost by one, unfortunately. Um, it was a very back and forth game, but they're both teams were very good. So, and we had our first conference game on Saturday against Towson, obviously, and we ended up winning, so that was exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious, what are some things that your team has been trying to work on? What did your team sort of, take away from those big non-conference games that you played that you hope to apply when you guys are starting off your conference schedule like you did on Saturday against Towson?
I think just staying consistent, obviously the out of conference games were huge games, playing an ACC team, a Big Ten team, and then Denver and the Big East. They're big games and they kind of prepare us for um further on along the season. It was nice to have them early, obviously. I think the game, especially versus Syracuse. You know, we were on the road, so getting the win there was huge, and I think it'll help us in the long run. When like the selection show happens and things like that. So yeah, I definitely think it was a big win.
And I guess what are your team's goals and expectations for the rest of the season? Obviously, it's to win a CAA championship, but I guess is there any other team goals that your team might have that fans aren't aware of?
I think our goals are always the same. It's winning a national championship, obviously. Making it to our first Final Four. That's something we preach every day at practice. Our coach always says if we want to get somewhere we haven't been, then we have to do things we haven't done, like things like things like that, he always says. So I think yeah, the goals remain the same. Obviously, we want to win it all. But we have to, keep playing well, remaining consistent, and hopefully come up with a national championship.
And is there anything individually you want to see yourself accomplish this season?
I think my role changed this year. Unfortunately, I tore my ACL in November, in the fall, so I am not on the field this year, but being on the bench, on the sideline, like seeing things from a new perspective, like obviously not playing, but helping in whatever way I can, cheering on the bench, um, whether it's just being a good teammate or anything like that. I'm happy with whatever role I can have.
Yeah, absolutely. And what have you is there anything you've sort of taken away, I guess, from the game of lacrosse, seeing it from a different perspective on the sidelines versus maybe playing in the game? And how do you hope to apply that once you finally start getting back playing this fall?
Um, I think you just, obviously like playing, I think when you play, you think like things slow down kind of like when you're in the game. It doesn't feel as, fast. Like you're just like in the moment and then, seeing on the sideline, just how fast it is. I think, I've actually filmed our Hopkins game, so seeing it from a completely different perspective, like on the offense, you can kind of see, if like a player were to step in like a little more, then they'd have like a way better lane, or like if someone else like cut off um a player, then that would be the better look. So I think observing that aspect has definitely been a change for me. Like I think by the end of it, my lacrosse IQ will be 10 times better just because I'm, watching the game so much more.
And where are you right now in the recovery process? And when do you hope to start playing again? Will you be ready for fall ball this year, or will it sort of be something that you'll be sort of trying to recover and you have that process so when springtime rolls around, you'll be ready for the first game for that season?
Yeah, my goal is obviously to be back for fall ball. I think I just hit my 4 month mark, so on the 15th of March was my 4 month mark, so that was exciting. I got cleared to do the return to play ACL lift, which was a big step forward in my recovery instead of just doing like the strengthening stuff without weights and things like that. So, I lifted for the first time since November, I guess. So I guess last week. So that was exciting and motivating, obviously. I think, you know, I feel like it's more common than it isn't that girls are like going down with ACL injuries now. It's almost like you're not a lacrosse player without one. So I think, um, yeah, just pushing myself to come back. Like obviously, I have to trust the process and stay motivated every day. But I think definitely my ultimate goal is to be back for fall ball for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy to see how common it is in women's lacrosse. Like, I feel like every team has like one or two players that have an ACL injury. I wonder
Yeah.
why it's so more common with female athletes than it is for male athletes in lacrosse. Is there like any
hmm
studies behind it? I don't know if you've looked at that or not, because I do find that interesting.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few. I guess we actually have three girls on my team this year that are all out with our knees, unfortunately. But I agree, it's never like there's never just one player. It's always like it comes in pairs. Like there's always two, which I mean, in from like my perspective, I am thankful to have two other girls that obviously like it's horrible that they're injured, but I'm so thankful to have them in my recovery process. We lean on each other every day and we're all at different stages, but we're together every day pushing each other. And I think, it's obviously a really hard time for us all. So knowing that each one of us are going through the same thing is definitely something that I appreciate.
So let's transition now and talk about the beginning of your lacrosse career and sort of work all the way up to where you are today. So you're from Ontario, Canada. So what's
And
it like growing up there, and how did you start playing lacrosse?
so I'm from a small town. I Yeah, small. It's called Orangeville. Box lacrosse is huge where I'm from. Um, my dad is, the junior coach in my town, so he also coaches professionally for the Toronto Rock. He grew up playing. He's, I guess, very well known like within my town and the box lacrosse community. So having him, um, he got me into the game. I was, I don't, I don't even know when I picked up the stick. I didn't like it at first. I did not want to play lacrosse. I was like, no, I want to do my own thing because my brothers played, and I was like, I want to be good at my own thing. I don't want to be good at something they're both good at. And then it was just I was around it so much. It was kind of hard not to fall in love with it. So I am very appreciative of my dad for showing me the game and getting me into it, and he's definitely a huge part of where I am today. So I'm very thankful for him.
And growing up, who was your favorite lacrosse player or team that you like to watch? Was it your dad's team, I would imagine?
Um, I guess yeah, whatever team. I was young when he played. So whatever team he was on, I was obviously his biggest fan, but um he got right into coaching after he retired. And he was with the Buffalo Bandits for quite a few years, so I was definitely a Bandits fan for a while, and then he actually just recently um moved to the Toronto Rock where he's the offensive coordinator now. So now I'm a Toronto Rock fan. Wherever he is, I'm his fan.
Nice, nice. Well, let's talk about your career now. So obviously before college, you played for your high school at the Hill Academy. So just talk about your lacrosse experience with Hill and what you took away from that, and what's like your favorite memory from your Hill lacrosse days when you look back on it now.
Um, yeah, I guess I attended the Hill my for 4 years. I started in grade 9, and I went all the way through grade 12. It was definitely, 4 of the best years of my life. I think not only did I grow as a player, obviously a lacrosse player, but I grew as a person. I think I came out um as a better human and obviously lacrosse player. I owe a lot of my success to the Hill. Um, having I only had 4 girls in my grade. It's a small school that I think there was maybe 200 kids when I first got there, and then obviously it's grown now, but I had 4 girls for my first 2 years, and then my team really, and that was it. So I think my favorite memory would probably be our spring trip my ninth grade year. I think it was just super cool. Like, obviously, women's field lacrosse isn't that big in Canada. It's like getting a lot bigger now. But it's like box lacrosse really, and you kind of have to go travel to the States, to like get exposure and you know play good teams. So I think we traveled to Maryland for 9 days. I think we played 7 games. It was a lot, and just being with the girls, at the end of the day, we were a family. Like, we weren't just a team. We had a successful season, obviously. Um, and half of those girls are like, if not all of them, still one of my like really good friends. My two best friends of all time are from the Hill, so I'm really grateful to have gone there and met them because without the Hill, I would not know who they are. Um, but yeah, the Hill's a special place for sure.
Now, did you play club lacrosse at all growing up? And if so, where was that and what was that experience like for you?
I played for in my town. I guess it's so different from club lacrosse in the States. Stony Brook being on Long Island, and half my team is from Long Island. They always talk about like the Long Island Yellow Jackets. That was like their club team. So like my like Long Island Yellow Jackets would have been like my Orangeville Northman team. Um it was like I think 8 weeks maybe in the summer we played. We played like 2 games on a Saturday morning, and then we'd go into provincials at the beginning of August, I want to say. And it wasn't like you weren't getting recruited like playing. playing for your club team at home. It wasn't like no coaches were coming to watch you. It was just kind of playing for fun, like playing with your friends. It was always my favorite part of the summer, being able to play for my club team, but it's definitely so different. Like I hear the girls here talk about their travel team experience and everything like that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's not what mine was at all.
Well, how did your time with the Hill Academy and your club experience as well help prepare you for college lacrosse with Stony Brook?
I think my time with the Hill definitely allowed me to be recruited. I think I always wanted, like I always dreamed about going and playing Division 1 lacrosse. And like it was always like when I first like realized I wanted to go somewhere with this and like I never like thought I was good enough. Like I would see people committing and like I was so young and I was like, oh like that's so cool. Like I remember I think my dad honestly might still have it. I wrote down like my 5 goals in life. And, like at the top was like commit and play Division 1 lacrosse. And then like I think the second one was like make Team Canada. And the third one could have been like write a book or something. I honestly don't remember. But I had that on my wall. And when I realized like I could go somewhere with lacrosse, then I kind of started looking in to the Hill, and I'm very fortunate that my family sent me there for the 4 years. I definitely think my recruiting was like solely based off my coach at the Hill. She helped me through everything. My parents too, obviously. But yeah, the Hill definitely had the biggest part in my recruiting.
Now, talk a little bit more about your recruiting process with Stony Brook and what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at.
Um, I think just, the how they just want to win. Like they they do anything like they're so blue. Like they kind of reminded me of my high school in a way, like almost like blue collared and like gritty. Like they don't like come from like you don't have a lot. Like at the Hill we didn't have a lot. Like we kind of just made with like what we had, obviously. And like here at Stony Brook, like we're not like an ACC school or like we have these amazing facilities and like obviously we have an awesome indoor and our the field we play on is awesome as well. But like we're not like a UNC or like things like that where like the facility tours are insane. So I think just the idea of coming to a program where like all they want to do is win and they'll do whatever it takes. I think that was really something that stuck with me when I started my recruiting, and I idolized Kylie Miller, who's obviously one of the greatest, if not the best player to come out of here. Um, she was definitely one of my favorite players to watch, and I think I liked to like not compare my game, but like I liked what I would see her do. I try to do myself in my game, being a lefty attacker. So I think when Stony Brook reached out to me, it was like they were one of the top schools on my list, but I didn't think they would reach out to me. And then I remember because our assistant coach is from Canada, and the goalie at the time, she had coached the goalie at Stony Brook at the time, had coached me growing up. So I had like I guess a little bit of a connection. And I sent film in, and I guess they liked what they saw,
Yeah.
and then I ended up here.
Now, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college lacrosse when you were a freshman last season?
Um, I think just the speed of the game. It was like we practice every day, like at the same speed we would play in a game. Like nothing's like, and like you get so many reps in practice here. It's like you don't leave practice every day like saying like I didn't get better. Like you probably one person could shoot like a hundred shots and like you know like everyone is getting so many reps. and like my first practice was so fast and I didn't know what to expect. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so different. Like obviously high school, it's fast, but it was nothing like here. And then playing in my first game, it was definitely a big adjustment.
Well, let's talk about your freshman year. So you scored your first collegiate goal against San Diego State last season. So just talk about that goal and sort of what it meant to you.
Yeah, it was definitely super cool. It was an awesome moment. Being we were on our California trip. We played San Diego State first, and then played Stanford, I think 2 days later, maybe. So it was, I guess, scoring like on that trip. That trip was like so much fun. Just kind of topped it off. It was super cool. My family was able to watch, not obviously not at the game, but they were able to watch on TV, and I had a lot of texts after congratulating me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like they were able to see it. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, definitely it was awesome. And then having my teammates there to congratulate me and support me as well was awesome.
Now, that season, you also won your first CAA championship against Towson. Just talk about that championship. It's sort of what it meant for you and your team, especially since it was the first time you won that trophy as a player.
Yeah, it was a super cool experience. The game itself, we came out right away. I think I don't remember what the final score was, but we won by a lot, and so I think that made it that much better. Because the first time we played Towson, I don't I think we might have won by one or two, like earlier in the season last year. Um, and then beating like on their home turf, it was super cool. And then we actually our men's team was playing in the finals versus Delaware, um, shortly after us, and so we won our game, celebrated, got pictures. It was awesome. And then we ended up getting on the bus and driving to Delaware to watch the last like quarter and a half of the men's game. So I think that that was also pretty cool about it. Unfortunately, the men's team lost, but we just continued our celebration, obviously, and it was super fun.
Now, that win allowed you to have your first NCAA tournament experience where you guys beat Penn State, but then lost to Loyola. What did you take away from your first NCAA tournament experience, especially the win over Penn State, because that was a fun game to watch as a fan?
Yeah, I think the NCAA tournament, it was like a completely different vibe. Like the atmosphere, like the Penn State game was a very good game. It was a big win and exciting, obviously. And then obviously our season ended to Loyola. We lost by one, which was pretty upsetting. And I think after losing, it was like because no fifth years were, or obviously like, the seniors last year, it like wasn't confirmed that they were coming back, so it was almost like that much worse, like seeing their careers end and like them not knowing if like they'll come back for their other year. Um, so I think after that game it was definitely upsetting, but the like I said, it was just a different vibe, like warm-ups, halftime, things like that. It was a really cool experience for sure.
Now, you play in the CAA, so I want to ask you what it's like being a part of that conference and just the competition you guys face each game.
Yeah, it's definitely good competition. I wasn't here when we were in the America East Conference, but I think the competition in the CAA is definitely I guess I'd say better. The teams, Towson's very good, Drexel, Delaware. Um, And then we actually have two conference games coming up. I think Elon and then Campbell. Who we didn't, I don't, they were in our conference last year. They just moved in this year, so it'll be cool to play them. They're both home, but I think, yeah, being in the conference, getting the um, game experience with those teams is definitely awesome and a lot of fun.
Yeah, Drexel's been really good this year. They've sort of been my surprise team of the season, with some of their big wins they've gotten so far.
Yeah, I did. They beat Penn State not too long ago, which I thought definitely a big win for them.
And then they upset Navy, I think, too, after that.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
So that's definitely gonna be a fun game when they face you guys in a few weeks. So, but one more question I want to ask you before we get to the non-lacrosse segment is just how have you learned to balance academics and lacrosse at such a high level?
I think just being able to balance them. Obviously you're at the end of the day, you're here to get your degree. It's not like promise that you're going to continue playing lacrosse after college. So, as much as lacrosse is such an important part um in your college like experience because that's what you're also here to do. Focusing on academics is also very important. And I think the Hill Academy actually helped me with that. You know, it was like I started like the college experience in like grade 9, being on the road for our games in the spring and even in the fall, having to communicate with like my teachers and things like that. Like if I were to miss a test or a quiz or something, or I needed like an extension because I was getting home late, um, like being doing that early definitely um helped me coming into college. I was like very punctual with emailing my professors and just getting my work done. Like if we had a game on Saturday, and I knew I wasn't gonna have time on Saturday to do any work or like on a bus trip, then getting my work done ahead of time. Yeah, but I think it's just all about balance. And when you find like your way to balance it, then whatever works for you.
So let's transition now to a segment I like to call six questions that have nothing to do with sports. And the goal of this segment is to hopefully get to know you more off the field. So first question is, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself and why?
Um, oh my gosh. Maybe Jennifer Aniston. She's like one of my favorite actresses. And I think she's awesome. She's super funny. So I think her,
What is your guilty pleasure TV show?
my guilty pleasure TV show. Um, Daisy Jones and the Six.
I've honestly never heard of that one
Yeah,
before.
I watched it for the first time last year when it came out, and I think I've rewatched it like 5 or 6 different times.
Yeah. I don't know
Very
what
good.
mine would be. Probably like Breaking Bad, but I don't know if that's even considered a guilty pleasure or not. So maybe The Bachelor. I've watched a few episodes of that season. It's been pretty
I
entertaining.
think I watched a season of that.
Now, what is the most underrated holiday and what's the most overrated holiday?
It was under St. Patrick's Day. I think it's pretty underrated. I enjoy St. Patrick's Day. Um, I think the most overrated holiday, Valentine's Day.
hmm I think underrated for me is Easter. That's always a good time. And then overrated probably Halloween, just because I'm not really into dressing up. So that's might be a personal one, but I don't think it's as fun as people make it out to be.
That's fair.
Now, what is the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Um, I think on my TikTok, I just saw I've been following, I guess there was someone that went missing not too long in Nashville. And I keep getting updates on my TikTok and I think I've I've been pretty invested. So I think that's the most interesting thing I've seen.
I haven't heard about that, but hopefully they find that person. That's pretty scary.
Yes.
I don't know, honestly. No, I try to pick an answer that's non-sports related, and I can't think of any right now. I've sort of been too invested in March Madness and the bracket and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Now, which player on the Stony Brook women's lacrosse team has the best style?
Has the best style.
Yeah.
I'm gonna Kaylin Hart, number 14. She her outfits are always looking good.
Yeah, I feel like you would have the best off the field style. And then on the field, I'll go with Alex Finn because I feel
You
like
think
she
so?
always looks great every time she plays. Maybe it's the
Yeah.
style of play because I have to ask you about that assist against Dartmouth where she broke the girl's ankles. Do you think that's the
Yeah.
best assist that you've seen ever in your career?
I think yeah, definitely one of them. She put her on skates for sure. Yeah, no, she's shifty. She's awesome. Even off the field, she always has the best shoes, I'm gonna say.
That's good. That's
I'll
good.
give
I
her
feel
that.
like her and Ellie Massera are the best duo in college lacrosse right now.
I'd agree. I would agree.
Now, one last non-lacrosse question, which is what is one place on your bucket list that you hope to travel to one day?
Um, I think Hawaii.
Mhm.
I really want to go to Hawaii or Greece.
Nice. Now, getting
Yes.
back to some lacrosse questions now. First one is what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
I think just televising it, the broadcasts, even in our game last weekend against Hopkins, seeing a bunch of things on Twitter, like the comparison to how our game was filmed to the guys game after us. I think just giving women's lacrosse like the exposure it deserves, is definitely gonna help grow.
Now, obviously, there's probably some younger fans that are listening to this. So, what advice do you have for them on what it takes to be a player like yourself in college?
I think anything's possible, obviously, if you really put your mind to something and, work hard, then you can achieve anything. Hence committing to play Division One lacrosse. As a Canadian, it's hard. We don't get the same amount of exposure. So I think, if you really put your mind to something, then anything's possible.
Well, Zoe, it was a pleasure having you on today. Do you have any shout outs you want to give to anybody on your team, family members, or friends? And who should we have on the podcast next?
Um, I'll give a shout out to my whole team. I love them all. And my family. I love them all too. I miss them.
Nice, nice.
Who should you have on the podcast next? Um, I'm I'm gonna volunteer Brooklyn Walker Welch from UNC.
All right, all right. Well, thank you so much, Zoe, for coming on. I really appreciate your time. I think you're a great player and an even better person. And best of luck for your recovery. I wish you a speedy recovery and can't wait to see you back on the field very shortly. And obviously, wish your team nothing but the best for the rest of the season. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.